So, hello everyone. We're looking at another Try&Fly here of an aircraft that I own for quite some time, but it was updated recently to version 3, and it's the FlyJSim Boeing 737-200, a very classic and old Boeing here. And FlyJSim produced this here, and the recent update had been rather fundamental, I think. So there had been a lot of changes apart from making it XP11 compatible, but we also have new features and some things that are quite interesting, and we're going to look at it. So very nice old classic Boeing, and yeah, one of the things that you can do while you're still outside, they do actually have a doors menu, and you can actually simulate the operation of the doors here and the air stairs. There are two exits with stairs. One is here in the front on the left, the other one is on the back. And yeah, you can see when you click on this little menu item here, the air stair is coming out. And after that, we could simulate that someone walked up and now opens the door. Probably took away the seal that you usually put at the door when you leave the aircraft overnight. And yeah, we also have service doors on the other side. They're just doors. If you have ground handling from Jar Design and you find a profile that fits this, you could actually bring service cars and stuff like that. I don't have one. I haven't found one that works, so I'm not going to use it today. So you have also the cargo doors here, and there's one interesting bit that very interestingly, this rear door here, when I click on this, what you can see is that it kind of cracks open, but then nothing happens. It looks like you need electric power from a generator, not the battery or anything, in order to get this open. Now, I'm not sure why this door wouldn't open, whereas all the other doors, especially the air stairs, are actually connected, and also the cargo doors are connected to the power. For some reason, this rear door does not open. It kind of stays like it is until we connect either the ground power or the APU is fired up. After that, you can open this door. I'm not sure how realistic that is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I can't tell. It's just an observation that I made that I can't open the rear door while we are in the cold and dark mode. Right. When we look inside the cabin, you actually have tidbits like the sunshades that you can move up and down, and that's what the cabin looks from the inside, at least for this livery here. I think you can change the inside color possibly as well. Yo. Not that I'm really very interested in a cabin, but yeah, it looks actually quite nice. And let's see. Yeah, let's do the quick thing then into the cockpit. There we go. And here is the cockpit. Now, I have done some video some time ago, a long time ago actually, here in the 737-200, but yeah, it is quite some time ago, and I haven't really been using this aircraft. And when it came out, the update, I didn't immediately jump on it, but eventually I did, and yeah, it is a very nicely modeled aircraft. It looks old and tattered. Yeah, these birds. I'm not sure if there are any in service anymore. Wouldn't know. Maybe I can check on the internet and see. But if there are, they're probably not very much. left that can still fly. But yeah, they have been the workhorses of their time, and it's these kind of aircraft that actually founded the fame of the 737. And what you can see here is a very classic instrumentation. That was out of the times when there weren't any FMCs and highly computerized fly-by-wire and all that kind of stuff. Here it was more like classic radio navigation, navigation with dead reckoning and who knows. So it had an autopilot, but this autopilot is a bit different to what you're used to in the Zibo or in the more modern variants of Boeings. And I've actually turned on a modification. What you can do is when you go to the settings here, so here you can change a couple of things like the clock time. Is it local time or is it Zulu time? I'm switching it to Zulu. Co-pilot callouts, they are enabled. Yokes, you can make them invisible. I don't feel that they disturb, so I leave them actually. Weight and balance is enabled. The pack sounds, you can hear some passengers when we open the cabin door. And there's the cockpit window, dirt or not dirt. To tell you the truth, there isn't that much of a difference. So there is a bit of yeah, and I leave it on because it doesn't really disturb me. Then you can change the field of view. You can change the exterior sound. You can also bring down a little bit the interior sound. I'm going to do that. And tell you the truth, I had a first shot at this, and in the middle of it, at some point, and I'm not sure how it happened and why it happened, my microphone kind of cut out, and then when it came back it was very, very low, and I actually didn't realize that. I hadn't checked the volume levels because I was concentrating. So unfortunately I did a pretty good session completely for nothing. So this is the second take now, and hopefully there won't be any technical glitches with this time around. So here you have the FMS. You can turn it off, and then you would be really down to the bare basics. Or if you have the Siva INS plugin, which is a payware plugin, it's not that expensive. You can get it on the Org store. And it is compatible. It's compatible with the 727, it's compatible with the 737. If you have that installed, it would offer you this as an option here, and you can turn it on, and it would then put a Siva INS here in the place where I put now the standard XP11 FMC. Right. Now what we can also do is we can connect ground power for the moment while I show you around the aircraft, and you could even connect an air card for some air conditioning. So I think for that, is it I wonder what I need to do. Let's first turn on the battery. Oh yeah, by the way, I have Excitec panels and I have the plug-in, and I haven't got a proper profile for this aircraft yet, so they interfere a little bit, the switches and stuff, they interfere with the aircraft. So what I'm doing is I'm going to the plugin administrator, and I'm going to turn the Excitec panel, I'm turning this off. Okay, so I can then do all the things here. So I'm now putting on the ground power, and yeah, it seems that we have also the pressure, so we have some air conditioning going on in the aircraft as well. Right, so that's that. The door thing we have seen already. There is a checklist. It is a very basic implementation with text, and it's okay, but yeah, what I have found is on the forum, explain.org is a CList file for the X-Checklist plugin, and yeah, so we're going to have a look at that. So the first thing they call up is the fueling. It's basically what we can do is we can go here to this aircraft symbol, then comes up the weight and balance, and we can now make modifications to the fuel, and we can also make modifications to the cargo and all that. Okay, so I can put in some random fuel and some random cargo if I would like to. I can turn this off again. So we'll just stick with this initial load here. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to can I enter? No, I can't. So let's see. I thought that you can. No, you can't. Okay, no problem. Let's put this down, and that gives us 3,800. Now, be careful. Check that we are talking kilograms and not pounds, because the initial setting is actually in pounds. So I've changed this here to kilograms in the settings. Okay, depends on how you want to do this. So we are having 3.8 tons on each side, which is more than enough for the short round that we are doing. And we have a center of gravity of 25.9% of MAC, and that's basically it. Very simple to get your weight and balance done. And the other thing is that it gives you the optimum altitude, which if we would really fly a long way, we would look probably at something like flight level 340 or 320. And we see our maximum takeoff weight 54.2 tons. The maximum landing would be 47, and the maximum zero fuel is 43 tons. We have a zero fuel weight of 36.5 tons, so we're fine. Plus a gross weight of 44 tons, which is also 10 tons below the maximum takeoff weight. So we're fine when it comes to the whole loading business. So we can close this now, go to next, and yeah, the GPS flight plan. We're going to program the FMC now. For that, I'm going to go into the flight plan page, Echo Delta Lima Victor to Echo Delta Lima Victor. Right. We don't have a company route. It's flight test 2, and yeah, we're not going to do much. We're immediately jumping to the departure. I'm going to select the runway and say Zone 3 Sierra and execute this, and then I go back and I go to the arrival. I'm going to select SOPTO 1 Whiskey and the ILS 27, no transition, execute, and then we're going to correct this whole thing a little bit. So we're flying to SONEP, and then direct SOP2, and then direct remat, and that's our basic standard basic route that we always fly. And I can show you this here. I have the little nav map going. I will need little nav map today because of the fact that we have no navigation display. So should I actually start losing where we are, I can have a quick sneak peek here on the moving map, because in the aircraft we don't have anything that shows us anything. So I have little nav map running here just beside me, just a little bit for orientation and to see if everything is okay. So we've got the GPS flight plan, X Squawk Box and XA cars. That's for virtual airlines and for FlyJSim flying stuff we don't need. Quick look view 2. That's probably the standard look. So the park brake. We're going to check that the park brake is on. It is actually. You see this red light here. And the battery is on. The battery guard is closed. That's up here. And we can now turn the galley power on so that the cabin has, or the galley in the cabin has electricity. There are well, a lot of the switches are actually coded, so you can do some of these tests. I'm not sure how deeply implemented they are, but they are available. Standby power guard closed. That's this thing here. Okay, so this is actually also coded. Then the APU, they want us to start the APU. So we'll do that. We have to stay on the switch for a couple of seconds, because I realized that if you do it too quickly, the APU won't start. The light might go on, but the APU won't start. But you can see now that the temperature, the EXH, not sure what EXH stands for. Exhaust something. So anyway, it's a temperature. You can see now that the low oil pressure has gone off, and what we can do is we could actually turn on the aft or forward pump. I'm turning on the aft pump for the APU. And as soon as the APU has reached a certain temperature, it goes down a little bit, and then basically the generator is automatically attached, and you need to bring it on the bus so that we now get our electricity from the APU. And basically what we can do now is we can go and where is it? Where was it? Here? No. Here? Yeah. We can turn off the two, and we can also give the APU as a source for air here, and bus transfer APU gen on. We've done that. Next page. So equipment cooling, all that is normal. Emergency exit lights guards closed. That's this one here. The snow smoking is going to be turned on. The seat belts are going to be turned on. The wipers are off. We should have checked that anyway before that. The jaw damper, we're going to turn it on, but as long as we don't have hydraulic power, this yellow light will stay on. Window heat, all four on. You can do the tests if you want. And then you turn these four on. I had a weird indication the first time round. There was only one light on, and suddenly all the other ones came. It was in the middle of flight. Not sure what that was. Window heat, yeah. Wing anti-ice, we are not requiring any of that. Engine anti-ice, no. Grid interconnect close. That's this one here, the switch. I don't think we have that in the modern 737s. And the engine hydraulic pumps 1 and 2. That's these ones, they are turned on. The electric hydraulic pumps 1 and 2 are both turned off. They are separated here, by the way. Okay, unlike in the newer Boeings, where you have the electric pumps, I think, inside, and the engine pumps are outside. Or is it the other way around? Anyway, next. Ram door full open, both blue, that's this light here. So we check that. And the gas per fan is needed. Let's turn them on. Left pack we turn on. The right pack we turn off. And here's my throat going again. So so we got the bleeds 1 and 2 on. We have the APU bleed on. The flight altitude. So we are going to fly at 5,000 feet. So I'm going to set this up here. And we are at about 100 feet. That is basically what we already have here, which is good. And the landing altitude is now set. We are in the ground position here. The autopilot is disengaged. That's these two bars here. They have to be down. The flight director is off. That's this wheel here. It's in the off position. Things are a bit different in this autopilot than you're used to in more modern Boeings. The altitude hold is off, that's this switch, and the pitch command is full clockwise, and I still don't know what that actually means, but I leave it at 0. Full clockwise, I don't know. Next, master caution, push to reset. Yeah, so basically that it goes out. Then the anti-collision lights we're going to turn the anti-collision lights on. They're here. Logo lights we don't need. It's a bright day, and we check that two fuel levers here, the engine start levers, are in idle in the cutoff position. We're going to bring them into idle data. Then comes the parking brake. Now this is a bit for the pushback. I don't think we are yet ready. So because before we can push back, we actually need to call a better pushback. And there's actually an interesting feature in this aircraft. When you press the ground call for some time,
ground to cockpit, please show me where you want to go.
Yeah, I want to go exactly here.
Ground to cockpit, toes driving up.
So that's the ground call pressed. There used to be also a FlyJSim pushback. I'm not sure if that's still available, or maybe it is not available if you have better pushback. It seems to detect better pushback. Interesting feature. And so that little fella is coming here with his little cart. Oh, we still have the doors open. Maybe we should close them.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect. Set parking brake.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet, but the stairs are almost in. Right. We're getting ready.
Winching strap and adapter in position. Release parking brake when you're ready to start pushback.
So we'll just wait that the stairs are fully in now. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect the parking brake. And then we're preparing the aircraft for startup. So the right pack and the left packs are off now. We turn all the fuel pumps on. Since we only have fuel in the wing tanks, I'm not going to turn this one on. We don't need the heat today. Engine start number 2. Yeah, so here we go. And I'm going to start engine number 2. Oh my god, what is it doing? Better pushback is doing weird things these days. I don't know. In the meantime, we can put this to 5000 and we'll watch this number in parallel. I see I'm already trying to do several things at the same time. So once we are above 20, sort of 24-ish, 5-ish, like now, you turn the fuel on, bring this in the idle position. And then we watch that the lights go out and all the parameters start. Okay, looking good. And I'm going to start engine number 1. We get the start valve open. And again we are watching N2 here, and once it is roughly at 22-24,
operation complete. Please set parking brake.
I'm going to set the parking brake.
Disconnecting tow, stand by.
And we are giving the fuel. And start a cutout. So, yep, thank you. We've got the starter cut out, so what we can do now is we can go through here. And I'm going to turn off the APU now, which slowly runs down now. Then I'm turning on the pitot static. I'm turning on the electric pumps, which also brings
Tower
on the
is
yaw
connected
damper.
and bypass bin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. I'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
And we are turning on the packs, that remains on auto. Okay. So let's quickly go through the checklist. Fuel heat as needed, we don't need it today. Bus transfer, generator switch 1 and 2 on, we've done that. Pitot-static A and B on, wing anti-ice, engine anti-ice, hydraulic pumps, left pack, right pack, isolation valve, bleed APU, APU off, engine low ignition. Yeah, so we're supposed to turn this now to the low ignition. And check all yellow warnings, indicator lights are gone. Yep, they are. And one of the things that we can do now is that we can change the heading to 272. The course is 272 for nav, but we need to change this now because we're going to switch to GPS, because we want to fly based here on the FMC or GPS in that case. Therefore, and so flaps we're going to set for takeoff. I'm going to take flaps 5. I'm using the key for that. I have F7 and F6 coded for that. Flight controls are checked. The spoilers, we can test them by pulling at them. There's also a light going on, is there? And unfortunately my axis is a bit jittery. Then we've got the altimeter QNH set. That is actually correct because I've turned off the weather. Taxi light is to come on now. And fuel heat is off. Yeah. And the transponder, well, we would only activate the transponder when we enter the runway here in Germany. Okay. Right then. We are ready to taxi. Links ist frei, rechts ist frei. Auf geht's. So, park brake off. That's the before taxi checklist. And during the taxi we're going to check the park brake, set the auto brake off. We don't have the RTO position here, and we're going to check that the brakes are working. So I'm going to do a quick brake check. Yeah, brake is okay. Right. Have to be careful not to get too fast. I'm already a little bit on the fast side here. Yeah, the usual very, very sensitive steering stuff here in X-Plane. Smallest movements cause the airplane to move, and somehow it also doesn't really stay very... Oh, I think I have gone a little bit too much here with the power. So let's quickly slowly reduce the speed again. That was a bit fast. Okay. Yep, I still have to get used to the steering, which is reacting a little bit differently to what I know from other aircraft. Actually a little bit sluggish, but yeah, that'll be okay. Right, so I'm going to turn on the lights now. I'm also going to turn on the strobes, and we're calling up the before takeoff trim. Oh yeah, what you do, by the way, is you can call up this takeoff card here, which tells us that our EPR that we are aiming for is 2.15. This is here, so I would advance the throttle levers to meet this little bug here, or 97.4 N1, but that's not so easy to see. Therefore, I'm not doing it with this. I'm using the EPR bugs. Okay. And the other thing I'm actually doing is that I quickly call up a little display on my iPad here, so that I have an additional source for instruments, because when you look at like this, it's very hard to read actually, and especially when it comes to the airspeed, it is actually difficult to read the airspeed. Yeah, okay. So for some reason, there's always something. This tool doesn't work. Oh, yeah, because I have turned off the network from the iPad here. Okay, so let's turn that on, and that should do this. You can't see this now, but I have a little display. Which is giving me trouble here now. Anyway, let's continue here. So these are the V speeds. So V1 is 132, V rotation is 131, and now that is interesting. We have less rotation than V1. That's not quite right. You would normally not have that. You would usually not be slower on the rotation. Well, let's assume we have 132 is kind of our go speed. And then we have 137 as V2, and I would sort of, in my initial setting, I would actually put the 137 with the speed back. I haven't found a way of changing these things here yet. An interesting thing is, when you click here, it would actually put the trim into what this add-on thinks is the right trim for this. Okay, so pretty easy. Then you put this on TARA. We're going to go flaps 2. So let's go back one step, because they're based on flaps 2. In modern Boeings, I don't think you use flaps 2 very often. Stabilizer trim 405, so put that on. And yeah, so flap retraction at 152, up by 190, and we have to make sure that we are actually not getting too fast, which is very easy for me, because I usually end up messing it up with the speeds. Inboard landing lights on, strobe position lights on, taxi lights off. Flight director we put into the heading mode now, initially, and then we set the altitude. We've done that up to 5,000. That's down here. The radar range is 40 nautical miles, by the way, so we need to turn this on. Let me quickly, you go here to the brightness, and then you put it on the 40, which is the radar thingy. I'm not sure why we are turning this off all the time. Can we please stay with this on, or what's it today? Didn't do that the last time round. Weird. Don't ask me what that is. I don't know, but it keeps turning it down. Radar into weather mode. Okay, so let's put it into WXT mode. Okay, we weren't in the right mode yet. Okie dokie. Right. And the IAS orange indicator, where they say 200 knots, I'll put it on the 140 for the moment. which is the V2, the initial. Okay, line up. We're going to do now. Need to give it a bit of power. And one thing you shall not forget is it takes quite some time for the engines to spool up. You have to remember that during flight. So if you're getting a little bit slow, you have to react in time, because it doesn't spool up very quickly. So you might actually end up in a stall by the time the engines have spooled up. Alright, so I think that's going to do it. So, landing gear, no, that's the cleared for takeoff. Okay, line up, throttles 1.4 EPA. Well, I'm going to use what they tell us, not 1.4. It's, okay, 1.4 initially to stabilize, and then we take the throttles to whatever the position, the takeoff EPR, so EPR, that's up here, and then 80 knots, called check, V1, we rotate, and then comes the landing gear up, and we try V2 plus 15 or 25, so 135, 37 plus 15 is 47, so let's say we're going to aim for this 160 or so as a speed. Okay, and off we go. So it's stabilized, and now I'm pushing it to meet the 2.15 EPR. There we go. Takeoff power set.
80 knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate.
Rotate. And it tends to come back a little bit on you, so you really need to pull on the yoke. Don't let loose, because it really very quickly tries to come back. So gear up. So I'm now going into VOR lock mode, gauging the autopilot, and I'm going to use IAS for the moment, and we're bringing back the flaps. So we're climbing out now with V2 plus 15 or so. And the autopilot is already following the course. I've done this pretty early because we have a very tight turn right after the takeoff. So if I take too long, then we might have some trouble following the route afterwards. So we're almost at 5,000. And flaps up. So we're 5,000. It's going to get faster now. And I will need to make sure now that we are not exceeding the 250. I want to fly at 250. And because this thing doesn't have any auto throttle, you need to really be aware. So we're following the route nicely. Important that you switch this to GPS, or otherwise your route won't be followed. 210. and the noise in the cockpit is quite loud. I'm going to bring it a little bit down here for the recording. So we're at 235 speed-wise. We've reached our altitude, so we're fine. We're following our route, which is also fine. And now I'm going to throttle back to something in and around 1.3 or so EPR. And you need to check, or maybe even below that, you need to check when your speed stops increasing. So I've exceeded a little bit. I should have done this slightly earlier than I did. So we're now at 260, so I'm throttling back a little bit more in order to get the speed down again. Yeah, so we're slowly reducing. We are roughly at 1.2 something EPR. Need to try and keep these two engines roughly the same. The axes on my joysticks are not 100%, so we're now at 256. Yeah. Let's quickly check the radios. Actually, I haven't done this, but it's okay. 1110.7, 115.5. So this gives us a DME readout here to the Niederrad or the Niederrhein or whatever it's called, VOR. We are 254. And yes, this is not standard scenery. So we have 251. I'm very slightly bringing up now the power, so that we do not reduce speed further, and I think roughly here we should be okay now. Just have to make sure that we keep both roughly the same. Okay. So lights still on. We can turn them off now, and we're going to turn these off, and we're going to let the passengers out. And let's quickly go to the after takeoff. Flaps is up, IAS 250 knots. Yeah, we're almost there. I think we're getting faster again, so I'm going to take it back a little bit. Flight radar heading is adjusted, autopilot knob is on, GPS nav switch is GPS, throttles just inboard, landing lights off. Fasten seatbelts off, altimeter standard. We are on standard, that's why we don't need to do this. So we're now on the long leg to Sonep. Okay. We don't need this, and then we'll be at the top of this end. We're going to call for the next checklist. So we're at about 250. So I think we've found the power setting which works now. So we are nicely around 250, I mean 1 knot more or less, and you can actually see we're slowing down ever so slightly. You need to just watch this and do the odd correction from time to time in order to keep this. And don't forget, we don't have any weather, so if you have weather, real weather, you will get changes anyway. There will be constant changes when it comes to the speed, so you just have to continuously check again and again and make sure that your throttle levers are adjusted accordingly to what the aircraft is doing. That's the only part of the flight that you need to do yourself. We do have a yellow light here. Let me quickly check. Stabilizer out of trim. Yeah, that happens when the autopilot trims the aircraft. But that's not a problem. Yeah, it just is an indication. And yeah. So everything fine. There's the eyebrow windows. And actually, when you open this door, you will hear some noise. You will also hear virtual passengers talking. You can turn this off if you don't want that. Yep. So everything fine. And because we have this standard FMC here from XP11, it actually allows you to use this for FlyJSim flying and the likes, because you have everything you need. You can enter sits and stars, you can change things, and the only thing you don't have a display. So unless you cheat a little bit like me and get yourself a moving map to show your route and help you a little bit with orientation, you don't have any easy visual means to know where you are along the route, so you would then need to make sure that you know what waypoint you're going to, and you would have to verify with all the instruments that you are in the correct position. So I'm expecting that we're going to turn anytime now, because I thought that we have already passed Sonep, but let's see. There is discontinuity. That's not good. So I think this got something happened here. So I need to. No, something happened here. So there is a problem. I didn't have that the first time round, and to tell you the truth, I have no idea why we're seeing this now. It doesn't follow the route anymore. That's not good. That's actually pretty much crap. Have I forgotten to take out a discontinuity? It looks like it, does it? Okay, so this is pretty much fucked up now. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's go direct remat. Let's see if we get this somehow. Yeah, hang on. Ja, ist ja gut. So. No, I don't seem to be able to get this in. Let's see if... No. Okay, So that means we now need to switch into heading mode and fly the rest of the whole thing. Yeah, and fly the rest with the heading, because I don't seem to be able to get it back into. We are now over Enschede, so we've gone far too far. Now that didn't happen the first time round, definitely. Not sure why we haven't that now, but well, there you go. There's always a little surprise for you. 249. Okay, speed is still okay, although we have slowed down a little bit. So I'm going to apply some more power. So I think we need to fly. What heading do we need to fly? I think it's 206. So I'm now giving myself vectors here. There's always something. First time round, everything went perfect, and then for whatever reasons now today, yeah. Mode is direct 2. I have no idea what went wrong. Oh, maybe I needed to execute on it. Okay, so let's try that again. Oh, and I need to put this on GPS. Okay, I think we may be okay again. It looks like I didn't execute on the change. That's why the change wouldn't been taken. But now we are going direct remat. And we have 39 miles left. Looks okay to me. At remat we want to be at 2,600. Doesn't work like that. And then, yeah, okay. No problem. So, because we are a little bit further than usual, .256, so I'm taking back the power again. So when we're about 20 odd miles from remat, I'm going to first reduce the speed to 220 and kind of stabilize, or try and stabilize the aircraft there, and then I'm going to also start the descent to 2,600 by using the IAS mode, because there is no there is a virtual speed kind of mode, and you use the pitch for that. So you're basically pitching, and you need to pitch so that you reach a certain target, or you do it with the IAS mode. I prefer the IAS because it keeps the speed in check. My biggest problem with these kind of aircraft, keeping my speed, and therefore I prefer the IAS mode because it helps me not messing up on the speed. Alright, so looks like we're going the right way here. So we have 28. You can actually see the distance here, as it's indicated like the DME. Okay, so I'm now going to try and get myself stabilized on 220 knots. So I'm bringing up the power again. Well, I think we've slowed down nicely. We're now 24. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to first change the altitude to 2600. And now I'm switching into IAS mode, and I'm going to take back the power until I achieve a certain descent rate. The aircraft will now try and keep the 220 that I've set up by pitching down and increasing the vertical speed. When you make changes to your engines, don't forget, it takes some time for them to spool up. Okay. So we are 18 miles away. I think the 1000 feet per minute should be okay. Should bring us nicely in time for remat. We could probably even have a little bit less than that. Altitude alert at about, is it 600 or 700? No, is it 1000 or 800? I'm not quite sure. I think it was 1000. Huh? It was giving us the altitude alert at 36. Yeah, so it's 1000 feet before reaching the altitude that you get your altitude alert. So I've set the auto brake to minimum. And now that we are reaching our altitude, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly already increase the power. To about 1.2 or so EPER. I think that should keep us roughly on the speed that we have put up. We still have 10 miles to go to remat. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that you need to kind of train with this aircraft. You need to get familiar with how to get it slower, how to have your engines running so that certain parameters are kept. So we're getting a little bit faster now, so I'm going to reduce the power again, a bit under 1.2 EPER. And one thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that the heading is in the right direction, and I'm going to switch now to heading mode. You need to do this here. So we're now following the heading, and it has also switched now to nav. When I was playing around here, it did actually turn this back to nav mode, which is good, because now we're seeing the localizer here. Okay, it's 272 and it's the localizer. And I'm going to reduce the speed now to 180. And I'm going to arm the VOR localizer mode. It's now armed. So 190 is, I think, was the clean speed. So once we're under 190, I can bring out the first stage of flaps. And we can quickly check what our landing speed will be. 128 is our reference. We land with flaps 30, not 40. Okay. So we're 190. I'm extending the first stage of flaps. And we are intercepting the localizer, and I'm switching this now to auto up, which is basically the glide slope mode also, because our glide slope is coming down as well, as you can see here. And I'm reducing the speed further to 160. And bring out the next stage of flaps. So we are 8 miles from the airport. Gear down. Next stage of flaps. So I'm going to go 128 plus a little bit. I think I brought the gears out a little bit earlier than normal. The gears are making quite a racket. So now I need to be careful because speed is dropping. We're at flaps 30, so that's our final flap setting. Oh, landing lights on. Yeah, that should do. Okay, let's take care not to get too slow. And yeah, we're nicely at our VREF. My aircraft. I'm using this external display now. That's why I can do this. We are a little bit high, so I'm going to pitch down a bit, trim down for the speed, keep the speed. Oops. Yeah, and the control is a little bit sluggish, so as you can see I have some difficulties to keep on the line when you, and also you get a bit of a yo-yo effect here on the, when we're getting too slow, so I need to be careful. Well, 286 wasn't too bad. I had some difficulties keeping it straight. I'm going to open the reversers. So, reversers come in and go to manual braking. Oops. And as usual, I have difficulties keeping the airplane straight on the ground. The steering is quite hard. Anyway, we made it. Park brake on. And we're still in one piece, it looks. So let's have a quick look at what that looked like from outside. Yeah, you can see that I had a bit of a a problem here. So we had to correct quite a bit. But we then made it somehow. It wasn't actually too bad. We're slightly slow, 126, but then I increased the speed again. And yeah. So you need to get used to this airplane, you know. Whoa! Yeah. And that's the sensitivity with the joysticks, so it didn't look that bad. And whoops. Yeah, and there you can see my issues with keeping it straight. That's always a problem. Yeah. Just yeah. All right. So the landing was actually then the approach wasn't great because I underestimated how long it takes to bring the aircraft back. So the reaction on the yoke here is quite sluggish, quite slow. That's why I got off the center line a bit, but then I was able to bring back because I gave a bit more input. So I suppose that's better than the other direction if it's very, very, very sensitive. On the elevator axis though, I had the other thing because it was actually very sensitive, and that's why we got this up and down a little bit, and I had difficulties keeping the nose at a certain level. But that's all things that you get used to. You need to get used to it with your joystick and your way of using X-Plane. And yeah, I guess with a bit of training, as usual, you would be able to handle this aircraft quite nicely. So that's it. I actually managed to get this aircraft down reasonably graceful. It wasn't that bad this time. Therefore, yeah, and I quite like it. And as you have seen, you can do normal flying with it, although you need to be on the guard when it comes to speed. And yeah, you need to get used to this autopilot thingy here, which is a bit different to what you know from a more modern version of the aircraft. Okay, so I'm not sure why the flaps don't want to come up. Oh, we are still in replay mode. Okay, so that explains it. I actually didn't use the speed brake. I didn't arm it. There is an arm position here that you need to find, I guess. I'm not sure if you have to. No. Suppose you need to find what the arm position is. Not sure how you know. Okay. Right. So very nice aircraft, and I think I'm going to do my next stream with this bird here. Right then. Until next time.